Hello there and welcome to this latest episode of McFreedom Mindset, where our aim is to give you the mindset and the skill set that you need to achieve your own McFreedom, that freedom to scale, grow, sell or franchise your business or run it from a beach somewhere if that's what you really want. I've been doing quite a bit of work on feedback recently in preparation for the next round of our McFreedom Managers Development Programme. The next intake, if you like. What's really struck me, in fact, I guess it's always been there in my head at some level, is the very British attitude to feedback, the relationship that us Brits have with it. And when you think about it, we are the masters of understatement. We're the masters of giving indirect feedback. You know, some might call it fudging it, and others might say that we're just polite. We're just being nice when we give feedback. The proper term, apparently, as I've learned this week, is downgrading. We tend to use words that downgrade our feedback. So we'll say things like, you may want to think about doing things differently. Or, my food is a little bit cold. My food is just a bit tasteless, rather than it's absolutely freezing and, you know, as other cultures might say. Or we'll say, I'm sorry, but when you get a minute, would you mind taking my order? I've been waiting 3 hours. What else have I written down here? Oh, favourite. I don't like to complain, but... And that's if we give any feedback at all. I mean, quite often, as we know, in a restaurant or in a shop, maybe when asked if everything's okay, we go, yeah, fine. While we're inwardly seething and just holding it all in. So downgrading is one of those very British ways of dealing with feedback. Other classics, sarcasm. People can be so sarcastic. Oh, thank you, that was such good service. Or, oh, yes, everything was absolutely delicious. And we're just being sarcastic. We don't mean it. And what happens when we're being sarcastic is that quite often somebody will take it as positive feedback. That happens a lot online when people complain via Twitter or Facebook or whatever, because they use the words, yes, your service was excellent, somebody reading it just goes, oh, great, service was excellent, good. So sarcasm actually as a means of getting your feedback across doesn't really work. The other thing that people do is use humour. And to be honest, I have to say that the British are brilliant at writing very humorous letters of complaint. I had one of those myself when I spent a couple of years as head of customer services at McDonald's, and it was at the time, I don't know if you remember, that some guy in the States had won a really big sum of money because he had spilt coffee all over himself. And he claimed that, you know, there was no warning to say that the drink was that the hot coffee he had bought was hot. So he won a really big payout. And not long after that, I received a letter that was escalated to me as the head of the department from Doris. I used to be able to remember her surname. I can't remember her surname now. But Doris wrote that she had spilt a milkshake on her nether regions, and they had frozen as a result. And there was this whole long diatribe about her going out to the washing line and all sorts of stuff. It was actually, I'm not telling it very well, but it was actually a really well written, very funny letter, which of course I had to take seriously because I couldn't just dismiss it as either somebody being very funny or some nutter trying to jump on the litigation bandwagon. So humor can be great but again, it doesn't always get the result that you really want. Now, my least favorite British way of giving feedback, and actually this isn't just British, is the person who's going to show us all how it's done, and ends up giving really harsh, really aggressive feedback, very loud so that everybody can hear them do it. The only result they're ever going to get is to either get anger directed back at them, or humiliate the person that they're directing this diatribe at. And as we all know, very often the person that gets the feedback isn't the cause of the problem. They are just the person in front of us. So I particularly hate that sort of feedback. But ultimately, whether it's sarcasm or humor or downgrading our language, it's all really avoidance tactics, isn't it? It's avoidance of confrontation, which is what most people see feedback as. Everybody is concerned about what is going to come back at them, because they see it as they're in a confrontation situation. So they're going to say something negative, and something negative is going to come back at them. And how are they going to deal with that? And all of this is all well and good when we're the customer, when we are the person giving feedback. Okay, so if we fudge it, it's no big deal. If we're sarcastic, then we just make ourselves look a bit of an idiot. If we use humor and we have a bit of a laugh and a joke with the other person that we're interacting with, then that's all well and good. But when we're a manager, when we've got a team that we are wanting to achieve a certain result with, then that sort of feedback and those ways of delivering feedback are just not good enough. They're just not going to work. And we all know how crucial feedback is in business. We know that it's crucial for getting the best possible performance out of your team and out of individuals within your team. So if you downgrade your language when you're talking to somebody, when you're wanting to give them feedback, then you're not necessarily getting your point across at all. When you use sarcasm, people might miss it completely. When you use humor, you might not be taken seriously. And being loud and aggressive, all that ever does is turn your team against you. And they might do what you want them to do, but they're going to find other ways to sabotage you, because you built a confrontational situation between you and the team. You are seen as the enemy when you give that sort of feedback. And of course, because of all of this, what many managers do is avoid giving any feedback at all. They'll see a problem and they'll just walk past it and then get really angry about it. And I've been working with a few managers actually over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. And one of the things that we dealt with straight away was how they go about giving feedback. And one guy in particular, he would see something happening in the office environment that he worked in, somebody maybe even on the internet looking at Facebook when they were meant to be working, and he would walk past it, and then he would seethe about it in the office. In his office, he would just, he would really cause himself problems mentally and physically, because he'd get so angry about it, when actually all he needed to do was give honest and open feedback to this guy that would have made him switch off his Facebook and probably never put it on again during work time. So, how you give feedback is so important, because you have to remember what the goal of feedback is all about. The goal of feedback in a business, when you're a manager, is to improve performance. There's no other point in giving feedback. You want to improve performance and inspire and motivate somebody who's already doing a good job to continue their really good performance. And if they're not doing things to the standard you want, inspire and motivate them to do it right the next time. So how do you give non-confrontational feedback, which is really what we're talking about? How do you get to that point where you're not afraid to give feedback, where feedback is part of your business culture, where feedback is seen as a learning opportunity, where it's about developing people? How do you get to that point? How do you get to feedback being really easy to give? Well, if you want to find out, come and join me on a training session that I'm running on Thursday the 8th at 8 a.m. So, before you kick on into your day, you can then practice your skills during the day that follows. But it's going to show you exactly how to give non-confrontational feedback, how to get the best out of your people by giving them regular, ongoing, constructive feedback, and how to use formal feedback to consolidate that and inspire even greater performance for the next quarter, the next 12 months, whatever. So come along and join me Thursday the 8th at 8 a.m. The link is in the box, and I can't wait to see you there. We'll get this feedback thing knocked on the head. We don't have to be British about it anymore. Come and join me, click the link, find out more about it, and I'll see you soon. In the meantime, stay warm and get your snow shovels out, because I think we're going to be digging ourselves out for quite some time. Okay, to your McFreedom, have a good weekend.